5, 4, 3, 2. Five.
Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Jeff, Junior Hockey Advisor. Junior Hockey Live Wednesday night. We are ready to rock and roll. Waiting for Mike to get in, but we've got so much to talk about. We've got tenders tonight. We're going to go around all the leagues and discuss what's going on in the leagues. Let's get rolling. All right, so once again, we're waiting for Bloomer to jump in. When he gets here, we'll get him on. We'll get rolling there. Tonight, we are going to discuss, I keep looking there because that's the old camera. The new camera is there. So that came up the other day. The question came up, how do you do this? How do you actually broadcast this? And, I was discussing this with a parent. Okay, I'll give you a little insight just because I'm waiting for Bloomer and I got a second here. Let's get back. Can you see it? All right, that's what it looks like. So we got screens going all over the place. The Elite Prospects is running there. What you guys are seeing is running there. And then this is the backup for any other information we need and just see if we're going and everything. And the rest of the layer is over there. So that's it. That's all there is to it. And then, obviously there's, oh boy, there it is. Big blue, gold blue. We're going to get through all this stuff, folks. Don't worry if you're a Michigan fan. It will be okay. All right, let's get back and get rolling. Thanks for allowing me to show you inside the studio. But that's what it looks like, just a bunch of screens. So say hi if you're out there. I'd like to know where you're at and, what town you're from, who you are. And if you got a question, we're going to discuss tenders in a lot of detail tonight. We're going to go through the tender process. While we're waiting for Mike to get on, because I really want Mike on for the discussion, if something's not wrong. I know he had hockey tonight and he was rushing home. The reason we're doing these at 9:00 is because of the fact that Bloomer coaches a lot more than I coach. I don't coach anymore. After 30 plus years of doing that, I think I deserve some time away from all things with cold feet. Okay. Anything that deals with shivering or a wet chill through the body, then I think I got to pass on it. I think I've done my time. I've put my penance in, and I love hockey. I love being involved with it, but let's just leave it at that. So I see some people coming on. Please jump on. Please tell me what you're thinking. Tonight, once again, we're going to cover some of the leagues. We're going to go through the USHL. We're going to go through the North American Hockey League. I think we're going to go through the EHL quickly, and then we're going to jump out west, and we're going to get into the AJHL and just see how they're doing. So I see you coming on, Frank. Good to see you. Northern Virginia's on. Princeton's on. Kevin's on from Calgary. Good to see you all you folks on. We're building up a nice little audience here. Let's jump in. What do you think? Let's jump in. Let's jump in by looking at the USHL. I'm going to take an approach because we've got, literally, this sounds fun now, but, we've got tens of thousands of people to potentially watch off our discussion group, off our Facebook page, YouTube, Twitter, all the different sources, Facebook, the people that follow me on Facebook. So, we gain so many people every week. I got to assume that a lot of people haven't been with us before, and that we've got to spend a little time talking about the league and kind of explaining things. So as we go through, and we're going to talk about the USHL tonight, talk about their standings, maybe a couple of players that are popping out to us. I just also want to take the time we'll talk a little bit about the region, what the region is and how it looks. So let's get into it. I'll explain as we go along, but, bear with me. This is not 101, but it's kind of a catch up for some of the people that are new to the audience or new to what we do here. So once again, if you come on, say hi, jump on the comments, throw a comment up, say hi, tell us where you're from. If you got a question, throw it on there. We'll get to questions as we go. Sometimes they pertain to what we're talking about. I should explain. Sometimes I get so excited about being here. Once again, I'm Jeff Colson. What I do is I run Junior Hockey Advisor. I am not a family advisor. We started this to help explain the process, how to explain where advisors fit in, where coaches fit in, where parents fit in, and what the players can do to advance to the next level. So a lot of the things that we do just to help you guys out and to try to get to the next level, for you to get to the next level, and for all of us to get a little bit smarter on this. What it's turned into is more than that. My other side gig, you might want to say, is I'm one of the directors for player development, the player process at the Lone Star Brahmas in the North American Hockey League. Been doing this for over 35 years plus. I've been an NCAA coach. I've been a junior owner, three different junior teams at different levels. I've been a general manager at different levels, and obviously I've coached at every single level along the way. I think I hold all. I think I was the first person to complete all of the different sections you have to complete that they came up with a few years ago to coach at all the different levels. I finished them all in like 2 days because I ran a development company for on-ice player, skill improvement. And so to jump out with a team, the league that I was working with said that you had to have and I forget, one of you people that are closer to USA Hockey, put that up there, what it's called, the different level things you have to hit. I'm a master certified coach at USA Hockey. I'm not talking about the level 1, 2, 3, 4, but the different things you have to complete to coach at all the different levels. Throw it up there. You make me look a little smarter than I am. So anyway, that's who I am. That's what I do. I spend a lot of time scouting. I spend a lot of time teaching scouts. I spend a lot of time talking to parents about the process and helping them out. Once again, I'm not an advisor. People do call me up, and sometimes I do charge to walk through a process, but it's a one-off. It's a one deal. It's an unbiased viewpoint of a process that a parent's going through, or a family's going through, or a player's going through. Maybe they're at a crossroad. Maybe they're deciding to hire an advisor. Maybe they're working with an advisor, but they just want another opinion too. That's where I come in and get involved. So anyway, that's me. That's what I do. Bloomer's coming on. Bloomer has got a phenomenal resume himself. I can't wait till he gets on so we can talk about it too. So let's see if anybody's come on. I don't know. Some people are putting some wacky stuff up there, and I just want to get moving on. Let's go. Here we go. Let's go. Just like our boy last week, Bryce, when we put him on, doing the things. Everything he likes to say is let's go. Okay. This is, let me move that down a little if I can. Let's just get me off the screen. How about that? I don't need to be there right now. Okay. This is the USHL. Bum, bum, bum. You probably all know that. But if you don't know where it's geographically located, now you got a little chance to look at it. A little bit of taste in the Ohio and Michigan area. The National Training Development Program is right there. Muskegon's over here. Then you get into the Chicago Steel. You get up in here to Wisconsin. And then mostly everything runs out into the other area of the United States. Once you get past Chicago, you just keep driving and you'll find the rinks. Now, what's interesting about the USHL is that it's built on mostly, when you look at Des Moines, Sioux Falls, Sioux City, Tri-City Storm, Lincoln, these are not hockey beds, the hockey hotbeds. These are, the rural area, farm belt kind of towns, but they've really developed great hockey markets out of them. These towns, are hockey towns, and Lincoln, Cedar Rapids, man, these are just unbelievably good towns for hockey. So that's the way it looks. It involves with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 states. But you can see there's kind of a corridor down the, what is that, the 90 that runs down the middle there? Is it 94? I'm not sure what runs there, what the highway is. I always forget. Coming out of Chicago and runs across. It's actually, except for a couple outliers, and that would be Fargo. That would be up here when you get into Madison. A couple outliers. The rest of them, it's all kind of a flow through. Obviously, the Phantoms over here in Ohio. That's if you're Fargo and you got to play the Phantoms, you might be packing 3 or 4 lunches. You're not just packing an overnight bag for that one. So anyway, that's the way the league works. Let's just pop down and take a look at the standings here. Let's start off with the Eastern Division first. No surprise to me who's on top. It might surprise you, but I have no surprises whatsoever with who's on top. And that is the Dubuque Fighting Saints And I'm trying to see. There we go. All right, Dubuque's on top, 9-1 to start the year off. You know we'd like them. We've had them 2 years in a row as being the best uh, as far as efficiency and proficiency and effectiveness of their draft picks. They do an outstanding job. I think the only thing that's interesting here when you look at Dubuque this year, we've always commented on how many people they have from Sweden on the roster. Their general manager is from Sweden, does a wonderful job. But if you look at this, it is not chocked full of Swedish players. They only have 2 on the roster. They've got one goalie up here, and they've got, I thought I saw a second. Oh, there he is. Eric Falson down here. He's at 04 that plays wing for him. So great program. They're doing well. They're on top. And they're right up there with last year's defending champions. We'll slide back over to that. And the defending champions from last year being, sorry, get that back on the screen for you, the Youngstown Phantoms that, once again, we've got a video on our Junior Hockey Advisor, the YouTube page. If you haven't gone there yet, please go. But we've got their general manager, Jason Deskins. We did a great interview with him. And we're going to have him back on soon. But the reason I bring that up is because I truly believe you can tell by the general manager and the coaching staff, the ownership, where these teams are going to fall out. Big surprise to me this year is Madison sitting there. And the biggest surprise, don't worry about where the National Development Program is because, they've got other, priorities besides just being in the USHL. The USHL is kind of their place marker. And then they play, international games. So they've got players playing and focusing on other things besides just hockey. They're young. Don't let that fool you. That's a great group of hockey players. And where they fit in the rankings or where they fit in the standings, it just doesn't really matter to me because their agenda is different. Chicago Steel being in last place, though, that one is a surprise to me. Chicago's always been one of those well-managed programs. They've always done a very good job of finding the right players. So moving over to the West, and we'll slide up to the West here. Sorry about that. Boom, get the West on there. Fargo's in first, and with Sioux City Musketeers not too far behind them. That is not a surprise to me once again either, but it's a group of teams. You can take the first 5 or 6 teams there, and this could all be flip-flop in a week. Fargo is 10-0 right now. That is very evident, but I'm looking at this and I'm saying, you know what? That next 4 teams, they're all good quality teams. You could see some flip-flop there very easy. I don't think that you're looking at down here at like Des Moines. I don't think you can say that they're going to be a 6th place team all year long. I just don't see it. But that's what I see when I look at that league right now. Great job with Fargo, great job with Dubuque. But, when you got the defending champs Dubuque right on your tail, and they're right there at 8-3, and you're 9-1, it's going to be a dogfight. That's going to be fun. Surprise team of the year right now, Madison. Let's look at their leading scorers real quick. Starting off with a Swedish player, Eric Falson. We already mentioned him. He's playing for Dubuque, and he's an 04 and 19 years old. I don't even want to try to name the town in Sweden he's from. He's from Sweden. He's got great. You want to go have some fun, pull up some of his highlight reels on YouTube and watch him. He's got some just phenomenal. But I want you to kind of look at his experience, and you want to know what the USHL is about, and you want to know what level you got. Not only have the national development players, but I want you to look at this. This is a Swedish international junior team, Swedish national team, Swedish international team, Swedish, the Dubuque, but this is going to be University of Minnesota. University of Minnesota taking a Swedish player back in the day, somebody that was, closer to Wisconsin on the border was considered international for Minnesota. You did not see that, but it's unbelievable, how things are changed in hockey. He's going to have a great career here. Right now, he's projected out at 99 goals, but 12 games in, I'm not sure I'm going to take that projection and run with it. But unbelievable talent. Watch him. He's got skill. And that just shows you, this is a pro developed player. This is a guy that's had so much international experience. That's why he stands out in this league. So that's it. We're just going to cover that. We'll glimpse real quick at who's leading in the goalies on the USHL. Then we'll move on. So we've got Berzins. I forgot to mention him. I like it because of his name, Patricks. It's not Patrick, it's Patricks. Okay. Playing for Madison. Now, Madison, once again, this is a story with this program. They've turned the corner. They've had some really, really, really down years. It's good to see them going in the direction. But I just wanted to point out again, you want to play in this league and you want to play in the USHL. This is the type of competition you're playing against. You're playing against international goalies that have had international experience playing on their national teams. And he did play in the NAHL. I want to point out, if you haven't heard of the kid before, he had 15 games in the NAHL, played for Tri-City, then he played for the World Juniors. That's, jumping in 3 programs in 1 year, that's a lot for any kid. He's a University of Maine commit, and he's playing for the Capitals with a 1.61 right now. So, all right, enough for the USHL. Let's jump over and talk about the North American Hockey League, and we'll cover what's going on in the North American Hockey League real quick for you. And once again, still waiting for Bloom. Just got a text from him saying, and this was 12 minutes ago, he's heading to his house. So I think that's about a 15-minute ride. If anybody out there knows the area or knows Bloomer, maybe you can help him get home quick, because sometimes I think he might get lost. Okay. Simmer down. If I'm sounded hyped, maybe I am. It's funny. Somebody says Frielberger, simmer down Frielberger. I don't know who that is. I can't see it on my screens on who's sending out the message there. But I can tell you this: using anything that sounds German right now is only apropos, because I leave for Germany on Saturday. My wife and I are doing a river cruise. We'll be there for almost 3 weeks. We come home and we're going straight to a little town in Frankenmuth, Michigan. If you've been there, it's one of the most beautiful little towns around, and it's all German. So we're going to go from Germany to a little, German type town in Michigan, have Thanksgiving dinner with our kids, and then the ultimate experience. I'm going to, my family and I will be down at the Michigan-Ohio State game, and yours truly, watch the TV game. Yours truly will be on the sidelines for the game. Yes, I will be on the sidelines. So watch your TV closely. I do not wear sunglasses, and I'm not wearing a Central Michigan hat. I'm not trying to steal signals, but I'll be there, and I'm looking so forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if I do seem a little amped, I am a little amped. It's going to be a great month for me. So I'm I'm looking forward to it. So, all right, let's move on to the USHL. You guys want to do that? Let's do that. Jump over there, and I'll pull up the NAHL. I'm sorry, we're going to go into the NAHL. So, as everybody knows, the NAHL's got 32 teams. Let me see if I can get this to scrunch up so you can see it. Okay, Central, East, Midwest, South divisions. Going to the Central, Austin's on top there, 7-3. North Iowa Bulls and Aberdeen, not expecting to see those guys at the bottom. Let me square that off so you guys can see that. Okay, maybe I do got to put myself back up there so I look like I'm under control here. The Austin being on top doesn't surprise me a bit. This is going to be a really good division across the board. You look at that, 21 points in first place with 14 games. Aberdeen, a little bit surprising with their record, a little bit surprising where they're at, but they're not out of it. They're only 6 points out of first place. North Iowa's going to have to work. They're already digging a hole for themselves. Looking at the next division, the East, Maryland sitting there right now with a 12-3 record. Unbelievable start. They've really jumped out quick. But, even though it doesn't look like it because the next record is the Northeast Generals, you look at total points. It looks like they're 8-6, but look at the points. They're sitting on 23 points with an 8-6 record. That means they're playing a lot of OT games, a lot of overtime games, a lot of shootout games. And look at that goals against. That whole division there is just, it's going to be a good dogfight. That's not goals against on the far right. Sorry about that. Little surprises in here. Not surprised about Danbury being on the bottom. They struggle sometimes. I think this is going to be one of those years. They're struggling again. Johnstown seems to either be really on or really off. That doesn't really surprise me either. Philly sitting down there is where I would expect most teams that are new in the league to be. But if you look in that 4 and 5, holy smokes, Rochester did an unbelievable job, just a really good job of bringing in a good, solid group of guys. We're going to talk about their top scorer on their team in a minute here, but what a wonderful job they've done. So kudos to Maryland on top. Kudos to Rochester and New Hampshire for up there fighting and keeping themselves in this, and for brand new franchises, that's really, really strong. So we jump over to the Midwest. What do you say? The Midwest, 8-3, 5-5, 7-8, 8-7, 7-8, 7-7, 6-7. You got one team with 16 games that's got a fairly good record, and then everybody's just log jammed up right after them. Not surprised at all with the way this looks. I'm not surprised on how this is going to play out, because you've got some really, really strong teams in this division, and there's a parity here. So Minnesota may be on top right now. I think they're going to stay up in the top, but boy, oh boy, you take 2 through 6, 2 through 7. I think you can see anybody make the playoffs out of that group, at least right now. And I've only seen them live, these teams live, maybe once or twice a piece this year. So let's get Bloomer on and see if he can pop in here, and we'll go from there. Mike, how you doing?
I'm good. Sorry for being late.
Oh, don't worry about it. We already talked about all your trials and tribulations and why you're late. I tried to tell him that you coach, but we all know that, there's other things that, nefarious things you do on the seedier side of Chicago that we won't talk about.
Oh, is that so? Okay.
At least you got your hat on right this time. What did your hat say anyway?
Chicago Jets.
Okay. That's admirable. Admirable. We're
Supporting
just going
the squad,
through the Nahl, and we just got down to the south. So if you want to jump in and help me out here, just covering each division, talking about who's hot, who's not. No doubt about it. We knew what this was going to be looking like in the South. The South, whoa, there we go. The South looks like this almost every year, with the surprise, though. 2 surprises in my book. I'm not surprised to see Lone Star on top. We talk about this team with a little bit of an assumptiveness in our voice that we assume where they're going to be. But we know what Lone Star is about because you and I are both involved with there. El Paso being up on top, don't really, that doesn't, I expected that a little bit. Going down to number 4, though, and this is the thing that you got to watch out. They do this every year. Folks, they'll sit at 4 through 7 every year. Shreveport, even the year they won the Nationals 3 years ago now, 4 years ago, just sits, they linger and they fester, and then they start percolating. And then all of a sudden the choo-choo, then all of a sudden, bam, they hit towards the end of the year and they get on fire. So watch that team quite a bit, where they're at, where they're going. Interesting on the next one down, Amarillo. New coach, we know him very well, Ryan Anderson. It looks pathetic with a 3-5, but no, it's not. That's more of a 3-5, but you got to slide over to all the overtime games, and that's where they're getting their points at. They're playing tight. They're playing tight hockey, and that's good. That's really good for them. They're a +1 with a new coach coming in with a program that was kind of, I think they're doing a great job. I'm glad to see that. And good for Amarillo. New Mexico is another one of those programs you can't count out. They might have had their run with all their quality players. It might be a little bit of a rebuild this year for them, but don't count them out. And then, boy, oh boy, Odessa. Come on, Odessa. 1 year, let's see you pop up there and make a run. I'm waiting for it. Got friends in Odessa. Got friends with the coaching staff. Got friends from being from billet moms and dads down there. We want to see Odessa do better, jump up there. Corpus, I don't have anything good to say right now. Come on. You got to do better. You got to do better. That's all I'm going to say on Corpus. Although, Mike, I know you're dying. At least tell about the event. We don't want to take sides on this. We don't want to jump in, but you can share. I know we weren't going to talk about it, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, there was let's call it an incident or a little altercation or whatever that happened after one of the games. And, It was between two of the coaches or whatnot. And, it's just not a good look. Overall, it's not a good look for the league. And, obviously as, coaches and people that work for these different teams, we're supposed to be role models for the players and whatnot. So when you get in a little bit of a dust up after the game, amongst coaches, it's just not, it's not what we want to do type of deal. You know what I mean?
I agree. I think you handled it very well. I was worried about what you're going to say.
I try to be very Switzerland in the whole matter, but overall, just not a good look.
Yeah. Thank you for keeping the abbreviated, abridged version so that we didn't put our foot in our mouths and get ourselves in trouble. All right. So we covered the NAHL. I did want to talk about, I forgot. I was going to go back and talk about one player, and that's going back to Rochester. Because I commend. I live in the suburbs of Rochester. I live in a little town called Victor in Western New York. Very familiar with the program. This is the replacement for the NCDC team that I was one of the owners of a few years back that was in Rochester. And now this is a NAHL team. And the player that, first of all, they put an impressive roster together. There's no doubt about it. But the player that's really interesting is Matteo DeCipio. And I just wanted to highlight him because, if I can get him to pop up here. This kid right now is on pace for an 86-point year, first year in the league. Popped over from the CCHL. This is a player that would be hard to get for most NAHL teams. That's the way it is. He's played in Ottawa. He's played in Kemptville, Brockville. He was in Carleton Place right before this. This is not a traditional player that jumps for his last year over into the North American Hockey League. I'm glad he did. I think he's really helped the league. I think he makes the league better. He's one of the leading scorers, if not the leading scorer in the league now. But kudos to Rochester for bringing a fresh approach to, Mike and I make our living off of going out and trying to find players, bringing them into the process, scouting, trying to find that new niche, trying to find the players from prep, from U18, sometimes U16, from Canadian juniors, from Tier 1 elite, from other junior leagues. And so, we get drilled in our head that, okay, that's going to be a tough one because after you go up for 10 or 20 kids in a row in the CCHL from a team like Rockland or a team like Trenton, and you're just not getting anywhere because they're very home-based. They look at hockey differently as far as the way it fits into their society, fits into their life, and they don't see value in coming down to the States all the time. That's not true across the board, but you run into that numerous times over and over again. A lot of times we don't put the same effort into it that we should. And sometimes we go other ways because holy smokes, the kid, we'll never get that kid from that. And it's the worst attitude for somebody in our spot. And I'm talking about us in general, meaning the USHL, meaning the NCDC, meaning the NAHL. I'm representing that voice. We do a poor job of sometimes selling our product down in the States. And all I'm saying is we got to do a better job now. Rochester went out there and did a great job of finding, arguably one of the top 10 players in the league, at least this far in the year. Good for them. We got to do better, the rest of us, collectively. Starting with you, Bloomer.
Oh, I'm always, there's always room for improvement on this end. That's for sure.
Okay, so I wanted to jump into the Eastern Hockey League. Did we discuss? We got to do one last thing here. I told you that we kind of cover the footprints too. The footprint for the North American Hockey League. Got to get back over to that screen. Just give me 1 second. And if it won't do it, we'll just jump on to the next one, which is the Eastern League, and then we'll come back to the NAHL. Let's come back to the NAHL while that's going on. This is the Eastern Hockey League. So in the United States, we have the USHL on top. That's Tier 1. We only have one Tier 2 league, that's recognized by USA Hockey, which is the North American Hockey League. 32 teams there. The NCDC is there, self-proclaimed. Now, that's important to know. They proclaim they're a Tier 2 team. Stats would say otherwise. I would put them at kind of tier 2.5, maybe a tier 3 plus category. They do allow players to play their tuition free. This isn't a money issue. This is a competition issue, and this is how much production you put out. You look at the other leagues. I think they rank 7th overall in USHL, NAHL, BCHL, AJHL, always on top. But the CCHL and the OJHL, which are 2 Canadian leagues, are usually ahead of the NCDC2. They've averaged over the last 4 or 5 years 12 fresh commits a year. They have a lot more than that in the league, but I'm just trying to give you a context. The Eastern Hockey League, which we've got up on the screen right now, as it name states, they're an Eastern Coast League. This is a Tier 3 league. This is a pay-to-play league. You hear a lot about the North American 3. You hear a lot about the USPHL Premier. In many ways, this is the most solidified league of all 3 of them. Has little turnover as far as new teams, transitioning from one city to another. It does happen, but the program this is Boston and the East Coast, running right down and through the Rhode Island into Connecticut, into New Jersey. Yes, they do have a couple other ones. They've got Vermont in there, also Philly in there, but that's the footprint. So if you wanted to, Mike, you're a little in the way. I got to move that away from you so people can see the footprint. Let me see if I can just move both of us over a little bit. You and I are going away for a minute so people can see the footprint. How's that sound?
We look great now.
Okay, so there's the footprint, and let's break it down a little bit and talk about what is in this league as far as where everybody stands right now. Real quick, you can see the names of the teams. You can see how big it is. 2, 4, 6 times 3. There's 18, 20, 22. There's 23 teams in the league right now. I don't think there's any surprises here. You've got 4 different divisions here. And let's start up there with the first division so you can see it. Worcester's on top with a 10-1 record. Applecore's always a strong program. And they're sitting on top in the Central. Boston Junior Rangers have been very good over the last few years. Good production, good player placement over the years. And then on the bottom of that, the Seahawk hockey in Bridgewater. Like to see them start getting a little bit. And don't get confused. The Seahawks hockey, don't get them in the East Division confused with Sea Coast that's in the next division, which is the North Division. Seahawks are on the bottom. Sea Coast, the Spartans are on top. So 9-4 in the North Division. Too early to really call, if anybody's doing really good, 10, 13 games in these divisions. I still think there's a lot of parity going on here. And then in the bottom, the New Jersey Bears, the New Jersey 87s fighting it out for the top of the South Division. Top scorers in the league right now, David Basin is tearing it up. 12 games, 23 points. Man, you can't say anything better than that. You notice, though, a little bit of international flavor in the top 3 scorers. 2 of them are foreign. And you also see that in the goaltending side with Isaac. You try that name.
I don't think I can. That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. I'm not even going to try. Isaac's doing really good in net there. So anyway, you want to see that league and how it breaks down. 82% U.S., Canada's 8.3%. But look at all the different countries. You've got a lot of countries playing in that league, and that's kind of cool. I think that's really cool. So anyway, that's your look at the EHL. Jumping over real quick, this is the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Let's get rid of us a second here. Alberta, 2 divisions, East and West. I think that's the way they break it down. Let me make sure that's true. This year they don't. They're not breaking it down. They're just keeping it as 1 division. I thought they've always been North and South or East and it is North and South. I'm sorry, it's North and South in the past. This is actually not a bad league as far as travel goes. You can see that's Alberta. On the angle down there where you see where it starts off skinny and then gets thick on the left side and angles up there, that's the Rocky Mountains. That's the Colorado is all the way from Colorado up through, and it leads right into the Rockies of Alberta there. Banff and a couple other ski areas are in that really beautiful area. You get to see those when you play in Canmore. Canmore's right, on the base of the Rockies. Really, really beautiful. So if you're playing in Okotoks, if you're playing in Olds, Canmore, you're really close to going over there and seeing the Rockies, and you can enjoy that. And there's some things going on over there. Yeah, but the programs here, and we'll look at the standings right now. This league is a productive league across the board. Mike, you know this. I don't have to say this to you, but probably a sleeper league for many. They don't. Most people don't put this on their top list, and then you start seeing what kind of players come out of this league. There was a defenseman that came out of this league a few years ago. What was that kid's name? Ended up doing pretty good for himself.
Cale Makar.
Yeah, he wasn't a bad player, was he?
No, he kind of put. I mean, AJ.
He's still around.
Yeah, the AJ's always been on the map, but once he kind of came through, like average fans and other people kind of took notice of it. So he kind of really put that program, like the league itself on the map. And then now, like I said, there's more people that are following the AJ or interested in it. And then there's more kids similar to Makar that are kind of going down that path more so than I think before.
The biggest thing to point out to this is for the last 5, 6, 7 years, the way it looks on the top of that board is pretty much the way it has been. And the way it looks at the very bottom spot in this league is pretty much the way it has been. So you're going to see Brooks up on top. Brooks is a perennial powerhouse. Brooks is as close to being, they're the dynasty in junior hockey right now. I can't put it any other way. For the last 5 to 7 years, I don't think there's any other junior team in North America that's had the same production that they've had. And on ice wins, championships, and production into putting players all the way into NHL All-Star positions. They've got more than one player in the NHL right now. But it's a wonderful place to play hockey. It's worth talking about if you're in that mix. If you're in that mix for, ascending up, you're a 15 or 16-year-old and you're ascending through, and somebody from the AJHL talks to you or is interested in you, you absolutely cannot pass that up. Doesn't mean you have to play there, but boy, oh boy, at least explore it. I had the privilege of having one of my kids play out there, and unbelievable experience for him. Enjoyed the league thoroughly. It's a good, fast league. They play hockey very, very similar to the BCHL. And don't be fooled. You could put 4 or 5. The top third of this league would compete with the top third in the North American Hockey League. The rest of the league can fall off very, very quickly, but the top is always good. Is always very good. So. And Brooks can play in any league in North America. That's a fact. You could put them in the USHL, the BCHL, you could put them in the North American Hockey League, and they're going to do fine. They would survive in any one of the leagues. Not saying they'd be the best if they went to the USHL or the NAHL. I'm just saying they'd be a good team. Mike, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I just think, like you said, looking at the top 5 teams, it's pretty much those teams every year. The only outlier I would say is it looks like Whitecourt, who normally is one of the better teams each year too. Seems like they're maybe in a little bit of a down year. I mean, I guess they're only a couple games under 500, but they're usually towards the top too. But, again, this is a league that we'll watch pretty heavily, and players from the AJ end up coming over to the North American League and vice versa. So I enjoy watching their hockey, like when we're scouting guys and things like that, I enjoy watching it. There's some leagues where it's like, I don't really enjoy watching it, but there's 1 or 2 guys I am trying to watch while I'm watching the gameplay go. So the AJ is a good league.
As soon as I give you the solo camera, you wrap it up. I put you on solo camera and you go, "Yep, I'm done. They're a good league." Come on, man. I gave you the solo.
Well, usually you're telling me I talk too long, so you got to be consistent with what you're trying to get out of me.
Yeah, when you're getting going there, it gives me a chance to take a cup of coffee or, maybe take a phone call. Who knows? I could do something while you're doing that. Hey, Tim, Go ahead.
We know you don't multitask, so that's a lie.
Ah, see, I don't know why I put up with that. I don't know why I put up that. I'm just so gregarious and I do so many nice things. And then you just come in and gotta go negative on me and just hammer away negative.
I just got to make sure you're staying on your toes. That's all.
And I put some time into this day. You weren't here at the beginning. I
No,
transitioned through, I used our transitions for the first time in like a year and a half. This is going to be a quality show. People might actually like this one. So, and then you say things like that. Come on, man. You can do better. You can do better. Okay. Tim Hacker, tell me what's going on. You say our kids play together. I'd like to know more about that with and against each other. Let me know something about that. I'd love to see that. I see that comment come up there. And I could probably put that on the screen. Boom. There we go.
wow, that's really small today.
I know. I
Well,
can't.
my eyes are getting worse either way.
Yeah, I don't know why. Don't ask questions. I don't know. Okay, so we covered some leagues. We talked about some teams. Gave a little bit of overview. We'll go through some more leagues next week. Actually, not next week. I'm out of here. Okay, but we will talk about. We'll get into the North American 3. We'll get into the BCHL. We'll get into some other CCHL teams. We'll get into the USPHL, NCDC. We didn't forget about them. It just gets real boring if you go into all of that all at once. Uh, hey, Matt Maxfield making fun of me using a big word. Yes, it was more than one syllable. Yes, it was a big word. No, I don't have a cinnamon book.
You got a cinnamon roll.
I went to the University of Michigan, so I don't use synonyms that many times. So, all right, let's chat with a couple things here. We want to talk about tenders. Bloomer, tell us about tenders, man. Tell us about what's going on. What's this week? What's the who, what, when, and why of the tender process?
Well,
And
today's a big
specifically
day.
the North American Hockey League. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so for the North American League, this is a big day because the league is going to release all of the tenders for each team today. So kids can conceivably get tendered today. I think you'll see probably of, a handful, maybe even more of guys that'll get tendered. And then it'll kind of slow down a little bit. But, all these teams have players that they either really liked last year or, they've been watching so far this year and been talking to. And on the first day available, they're going to start, reaching out and tendering these different kids. So for those that aren't really all that familiar with the tendering process, each league kind of has a little bit of a nuance to how they, conceive a tender. For the North American League, every team is going to start off with 10 tenders. And 7 of them are kids that can get tendered from any different league. It could be a midget AAA. It could be, juniors in Canada. It could be a European. They can come from anywhere, as long as they're not already a right of a player of a team in the North American League. Hello, Jeff.
I agree with that, except don't forget to explain why there's an inequity when you look at the overall tender lists. For example, the reason why we're talking about this is not only because it's this week, but the discussion came up on our Facebook discussion group, the Junior Hockey Advisor discussion group, and we posted one of our, Jason Phillips, one of our members, posted an article from the rinklive.com, and it was a very brief analysis of the tender process in the North American Hockey League. And I came back and said, whoa, that's a little bit, one-dimensional. Good information, solid report, but very one-dimensional. So trades come into play. So I could literally trade all my tenders away this year for a player or 2 or 3 or 4 and not have any tenders next year. So the reason
I think you got to explain the article you're referencing for those who haven't read it.
I'll show you a picture of it. How does that sound? I'm going to just drop this down here and put it on this screen here and just make this bigger. And there's the article that's right off of our Junior Hockey Advisor discussion group, and it's the analysis of the North American Hockey League tenders signed in 22-23, shows which teams which teams follow through the most. I kind of cringe on that when they say which teams follow through most. And the reason I cringe with that is mostly because of the fact that I don't believe that's the way you should look at it. That, you know, it's not a follow through thing in my eyes. It's every year it's different. And I'll let you talk. Let's remember to circle back around to that title so we can talk about, you know, which teams follow through. I'm even writing that down, follow through, because I cringe on that statement. All right, Mike, sorry.
So where do you want me to go back to?
I know where you're going back to. You're going back solo, talking about the NAHL.
All right, so let's get back to the fact that these tenders are going to be released. Every team's going to get 10. 7 of those can be used on kids from anywhere for the most part. And then you're going to have 2 that'll be used for kids that play in the NAPHL AAA division. That's the partnership that AAA league has with the NA. And then there's also going to be an NA3HL tender that'll get mixed in there. Now, as the season goes on, there's going to be different events, the NAPHL events. There's going to be different NA combines, different things like that, where teams will be able to accrue more tenders as the year goes on by making sure that they have their staff in attendance for those. So that way those players are getting scouted the way that they should and things like that. So sometimes you'll see teams get up to 12, maybe 13 tenders just from making sure they have a presence at all these different events. These tenders can get traded. So sometimes teams will have less than 10 when they start. Sometimes they'll have more depending on what they did the previous year. But the reality is kids want to be tendered because that's them being able to choose the program that they want to play for because the program that they're talking with also wants them. So it's better than kind of having your name hanging out there and potentially getting drafted by a team that maybe you don't know or wouldn't want to play for. So this whole tendering process is going to start today and it's going to go all the way until the draft. And you know, you're going to see a lot of kids, like I said, right away tender, which puts a lot of pressure on the kids who didn't. And, you know, you start to feel the pressure when you're a family and, you know, you have kids on your team that are being talked to by multiple teams and maybe you're not. And it's just something that you have to kind of work through because it is a little bit of a process. And, you know, when we look at our tenders from last year, some of our better or best tenders that we have right now on our team this year, we didn't sign them until maybe January or, you know, like Anthony Capello, he was a later tender and it wasn't because, you know, we got to him late or anything. It's the process, you know, he's weighing other options and, you know, we're continuing to talk with him and manage what we're doing for the year. And, you know, he's a rookie for us this year and he's doing fantastic. So, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, people are going to really start panicking over the next week just because we're, you know, all of us teams are getting everything released to us today.
Yeah. And it's not, you know, teams go about it differently. Some teams, it's a sprint. You know, when I'm talking about of the 32 North American Hockey League teams, some teams it's a sprint. They come out of the gate and they want to get 3, 4, or 5 kids tendered right away. In some years that falls in your lap, and that's the way it plays out because there's a pocket of talent that everyone wants to get, and then there's other years where that talent might not be as exposed, and you got to go out and, you know, push a little bit further to get the talent captured on your team. There's other teams that are very successful waiting, and they don't do anything until March, April, and sometimes right up until the draft process starts. They put their last few tenders in, and I think there's a cutoff there before the draft that you have to have them done. But my point is they'll wait, and in fact, coming out of the AJHL, this is years ago now. When my son played up in the AJ, he signed his tender. They played their last game. They got knocked out of the playoffs. And on the way home, we stopped at a hotel. They faxed a tender sheet over to him right as soon as his season was done. And he was done with his commitment there. So they waited until the season was over to do it right and to capture him coming out of a Canadian league. So you might not see a tender right off the bat. That doesn't really mean much. Like Mike said, you know, there's a big panic that, you know, I need to get tendered. There's 3 ways onto a team, And maybe if you count drop downs from other leagues and players that come through other processes like like I said, the drop down USHL players dropping down to the roster. You got other ways to get on the roster. You can be a free agent coming out of the main camp. You can be a tender, and you can also be a draft pick. Those are all viable. And once you're on the roster, it doesn't matter. There isn't the NHL. If you're a first round draft pick in the NHL, it means something. You get a much bigger check. Okay, you're looked at and regarded to have to carry more weight as a first round draft pick. Same thing with football. Same thing with basketball. If you're a first rounder, that means something. But I can tell you right now, the draft and the tender process, because you have tenders first, the draft picks, they don't correlate with first round, second round, and third round like this, because tenders, I guess they're all first round draft picks. So you've got potential of 10 or more first round draft picks every year. But the reason why it doesn't matter is because sometimes teams know they've got to take a shot at, there's players in other leagues. Let's say I was looking at a guy that's a borderline BCHL guy. He's on a team. He's not having a great year. He's frustrated. We think we got a really good shot at taking him. If we draft him 5th or 8th, he's going to say, wow, they only think I'm a 5th round player. That ego gets in his way a little bit. He might still be a good player, but we need to put him first to try to, convince him that we want him. I hate to say it that way, but that's reality. Okay. Other players, they just want to get to main camp. They don't care if it's 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. They want to be picked so they can get to main camp. Once you're at main camp, throw all that out the window. It doesn't matter. Tenders don't matter because you're competing now to make the team going into the fall. So anyway, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'll just add to that too. There's been times in the past where we've tendered kids on November 1st, and by the time they get to main camp, it almost seems like a year away, their development, plateaued. And, the kids that were, I guess at November 1st, we weren't as high on. As the season went on, we got a lot higher on them. And we were thinking, this, our tender's really got to get himself back on track. And sometimes they never do. And, because we liked them a year ago and tendered them on November 1st, everybody else caught up and passed that kid or that player. And next thing you know, we show up to main camp and, had we waited, we may not have done that, and I think a lot of teams have similar stories like that. And sometimes it has nothing other than to do that when the kid gets tendered, he thinks that's it, I made it, and takes their foot off the gas. And then next thing you know, they get passed up by everybody. So, there's a lot of ways, for the people who are listening that have kids that, either are getting talked to right now or maybe aren't. There's ways of kind of figuring out the best spot for you, but also continuing to keep motivated because this, like you said, this isn't the end goal. Like getting tendered doesn't guarantee you a spot on the team. It just basically allows you to pick your place and have the team that really wants you or whatnot, but you still have to make the team. So it doesn't matter if you tender on November 1st or 3 days before the draft, you still have to make the team.
Yeah, not only do you have to make the team, but the draft process stands alone. Let's not convolute the waters anymore. That's my fault. I did that. But looking at tenders in general, the who, what, when, and why of the tender process, it's for the team's perspective. Tenders kind of give you an idea how the roster is going to look, your ghost roster for next year. For the player, it gives them a sense of security knowing I've got a place that wants me. Now, that's a very true statement until it's not a true statement. What Mike just mentioned, and this is important, is, teams turn because the player turns, okay? If a team decides to, even though you're tendered, when you get there, there's not interest, it's usually because you took your foot off the gas. And that happens all the time. It happens at every level. It happens when a player gets an NHL. You'll see, there's a ton of players that are in college hockey that are draft picks. And they'll have an unbelievable year. They get drafted in the first or second round, and they disappear. All of a sudden, they go from being a 20-goal scorer to a 4-goal scorer. And you say, what happened? Well, they're coasting now. They're afraid to get hurt. They don't go in the corners anymore because they don't want to, ruin their career, or they just stop working out. They think they've got it made. Some of it goes to their head. Some of them get cautious, but whatever, the foot came off the gas. Some of it's reasonable reasons why they took the foot off the gas, but in other ways, it got to their head. The head got too big for the locker room. Now, that happens at all levels. It happens at Division One when the guys get drafted. It happens in the North American Hockey League when you get drafted or tendered. You have to keep working. In fact, now you want to work harder because now you want to prove your worth and finish that, your U18 or your prep year or wherever you're being tendered out of. You want to finish strong so that you're still seen as a commodity. The guys that get drafted or tendered, especially tendered, I keep saying draft, you get tendered early in November and you go, whoo, all right, I'm tendered, and you've got 20 points, through the month of October, and you don't get 20 points for the rest of the year. That's the problem. That's the problem. You took your foot off the gas. And so you're not going into main camp with momentum now. You're going in thinking, I got it made. They like me. And yes, the coach could have said, we see you as a first liner or a second liner. When they were talking to you about tendering you, they could have projected where you're going to be, what kind of player they see, how you're going to fit in, how it's going to be all great. But you've got a part of this to keep in the contract too, which is to keep pumping forward, getting stronger, getting faster, getting better. And if you don't do that, all bets are off. There is no written contract that says you've got to be in the weight room, that you've got to keep producing. But the unwritten contract is if you don't keep producing and keep working hard, and it's not always points. Don't get caught too much on me saying you got to put points up. But if you're a point getter, you better be putting points up. If you're a grinder, you better be grinding. If you're a goalie, you better be stopping. And if those things don't happen, it doesn't do you a bit of good after you get to main camp. You can't try to get good at main camp. You can't try to make up ground once you get to main camp. You are what you are. And if you're lazy for 4 months after you got tendered, you're going to be lazy there. So I hope I didn't kill that.
Well, I'll add one more layer to it where I think, from our standpoint as scouts and things like that are watching these different players, in many cases, what we see of them right now today is still not good enough for them to make our team right now today. But we're forecasting what they're going to be 8 months from now, 10 months from now. And we forecast that, yes, they are going to be older, a little bit stronger, have that one more year under their belt where they are ready to come into camp and make the team, which is why we're showing interest in wanting to tender them. But I think kids think sometimes that they're ready right now. And that adds that layer of complacency, or I don't have to work as hard because I'm already good enough to play in the league. We're not saying you're good enough to play in the league right now today. Otherwise, you'd probably be there. It's more we're projecting you to be there if you continue your development and your stuff that is going to help you get there.
So a couple things on the tender process. I was looking at our message board a little bit earlier. Jason made a great point. He was talking about, a group of kids could be tendered. There's a coaching change, and that can invalidate all of the tenders. That's the reality of life. That's going to happen to 3 to 5 teams this year. On average, you're going to have coaching changes. Coach is going to move up to Division One. A coach is going to move to the USHL. Sometimes they move into the minor leagues in the pro ranks, but there's going to be coaches leaving. Some coaches might get fired. Some get promoted. We don't know. But anytime there's a coaching change, that means that there might be 10 kids that don't fit the new coach's realm. That happened. My son was a returning captain in the North American Hockey League. And when he returned to the team, there was a coaching change. And all the players that they've been skating with the team and came up in the spring and was practicing, they thought they were going to play with, those kids never even made it out of main camp. And the coach brought in a whole different level of player. It was a positive move because all those players he brought in like 4 or 5 Division I commits. That was great. That was unbelievable for the team. But it didn't add a lot of trust to everybody about how the process worked, So, but that's the reality. It can happen to anybody there. So, Mike, you got anything to add on that?
Nope. I think we beat this thing to death.
Really?
I think so.
Okay, but I wanted to talk about the
article.
The teams that follow through the most. That's a bunch of malarkey. You can't take 1 year, a snapshot of 1 year, and make that the evidence of how teams operate. For all the reasons we just talked about, if we know we've got a lot of strong players returning, and maybe 3 or 4 kids are returning that we didn't expect to return, and we've got a list of 10 tenders, and let's say all 10 tenders are equal and they're all good, but we've only got room for 6 tenders. At best we're batting at 60% of the tenders. Now that's not even good odds right there. This list here, the way this looks is, when you look at the graph that they put in here, and I'm going to see if I can pull that graph up, because this is not a telling graph. I'm hoping this will correlate. So I'll pull this up and put this on the screen down here again.
Yeah. So what, for those who haven't read the article, what this article did essentially was it looked at all the tenders from the 2022-2023 tendering period, and then looked at who on the roster as of right now is still there playing. And it kind of broke down by percentage how many, players were tendered are still on the roster to determine, I guess, which programs they're deeming as, this is a good team to tender with because most of their tenders will stick, versus the ones that aren't or won't stick. So,
and a lot of this has to do with returning players, and it's very difficult to look. This graph makes it look like everybody in the league should be, the mean should be somewhere around what, 60%. Is that what I'm looking at this, just on a quick glance, Mike?
Yeah, I would think so. Around 60.
Okay. That is historically high. And that's high because there are times when, good quality teams get 4 of their tenders, and that's a good year. Okay. Sometimes you do get it. I mean, New Mexico, God bless them. Shreveport, God bless them. 10 out of 11, 8 out of 10. That's incredible that those guys all made the team. But you also look and see where New Mexico and Shreveport are in the standings right now. It's reflective on that. That's a lot of rookies to bring in. That's a lot of rookies to have making the roster. It's not our league, to have that many. USHL, you'll see a lot more of their draft picks make the roster because it's a younger league. They have a lot of one and done players. Our league has a lot of 3-year players. So it's not a fair assumption to say, oh my gosh, New Mexico is the place to play. Now, I like New Mexico. They're well managed. They've got a great ownership group. They've been extremely good the last 3 years. There's nothing wrong with New Mexico. I'm not picking on them. But to say that that's the Bell standard or the gold standard, I should say, that's not a fair statement. That's not fair for the rest of the teams. You look at the other side of it. Yeah, there's some of the teams on the bottom that might be issues with management, might be issues with coaching, but those are the two extremes. In the middle, that's where really the things are really at. That 6 out of 9, 10 out of 15, 7 out of 11, 5 out of 8, those numbers are good. Those numbers are good across the board. Everybody would be very happy if you consistently put 5 or 6 players off your tender list on your team. You're doing very, very well.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that it doesn't take into account either is there's going to be kids that are really good players that are tendered that end up in the USHL. So the fact that they're not on your roster for this purpose is a ding in a negative way. But I mean, that's kind of a positive where you have identified a player that, was at the ability to make the USHL.
Agree. Okay, we beat it to death. You're right. Time to hang up the skates for the night, folks, and get rolling. Hey, Mr. Hacker, I'm not sure what son I have, and maybe you know more about my sons out there than I know. I was in the Marine Corps. There's a good chance that there's a player out there named Colson, but I don't think they would have kept my name if I don't know about him. But I don't think my youngest son is a 2000 birth year, so he's out of high school, and I'm just remember I asked Mr. Hacker to throw it on, so he came out. Wow, that is small. I wonder why it's so small today. Anyway, he basically was giving me a breakdown. I don't think the same. DM me. Maybe my son is playing covertly. He finished. He finished
You like
junior
Billy
hockey.
Madison? He's going through high school and everything again.
Why not? Why not? You had what was the kid from Puerto Rico that played as like a 17-year-old in that Little League World Series? Was firing like 92-mile-an-hour fastballs. Remember
Yeah,
that about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago?
I wasn't born yet, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, keep it up. Okay, Mike, anything else?
I don't think so. I think you're going to be on vacation for a few weeks, so either we're going to be on a little bit of a hiatus, or I'll have to figure out how to get this thing fired up.
Oh, you mean you have to actually try?
I don't know what you got on your end. That's the thing.
I
So I
just
don't know
showed
if we're.
everybody. There's the one thing I did, folks. You got to back me up on this. I right at the beginning of the show, I put on the Coulson camera, and I showed everybody. I'm going to pull it up again so you can see. I pulled up and showed everybody how everything's lined up. I showed them all the bells and whistles. So all you got to do is match that. Just do the same thing I'm doing right there.
Yes.
Then
What's that little box on the bottom there? That's what you got all these little gadgets for.
yeah, that's right here.
Yeah, I don't got that.
You don't need that. You're not smart enough for that yet.
Okay.
That takes that takes many years of fumbling around. Okay, you might be able to handle just a keyboard.
Yeah, I know how to handle that.
Okay, I know. Very boring stuff right now.
This got real Blair Witch on us.
Blair Witch. Oh, okay. Anyway, that's it for the night. I was gonna say have a good time for 3 weeks, folks. Don't just remember Michigan, Ohio State. Look on the sidelines. I'll be there live, jumping up and down like an old fat guy, say woohoo.
You stealing signs in between the next few
If
weeks?
they ask me to steal signs, I will steal signs. I'm not gonna. First of all, it's legal if I'm in the stadium, but if they called me up and gave me tickets right now to go watch Ohio State this weekend, I'd do it. I'd do it in a heartbeat. Why not? Everybody. That's the whole thing about this thing. Urban Meyer said it, and then everybody hushed up on that. Urban Meyer, they were talking about it. Urban Meyer goes, I've had guys at every single Michigan game when I was coaching there. And then boom, they took him off the screen and he was done,
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things. Anyway,
Hey,
we're done.
rumor on the street, he's going to be the next Michigan State head coach.
Yeah. The day that happens, you know how much money they'd have to give him to go to Michigan State? But if he can get it, good for him.
I heard $100 million.
I think he's worth it, and I think it'd be fun for the league. But man, oh man, the Big Ten football, with Oregon and USC, UCLA, who else is coming in from that group? There's somebody else over there coming in. Washington. You got all those teams coming in. It's going to be a gauntlet to win, going forward. So, all right, everybody have a great night. Thanks so much. If you got questions, you can DM us. You can put your questions up on there. I did say I was going to answer one question here. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can. Okay, what is the process for a player playing CSSHL to affiliate with an all team? Do we just trust coaches and understand the process and follow the lead? So the affiliate situation. Mike, you go first because I've got opinions on this, but I want to get a pragmatic, level-headed view of the affiliate process from you.
What was the league? It's basically just the affiliate process?
Yeah, he's playing U18 in Canada right now.
Okay. And this is for the NAHL? The affiliate process within the NAHL?
Yeah, he didn't say NAHL, but just in generic terms, affiliation.
Yeah, so every team will have an affiliate list with different players on it. They're not necessarily protected by that particular team per se until they get tendered or drafted or things like that. But they are players that we can use throughout the year, to give them a couple games over a weekend or, spot them in just to see where they're at. And that'll help further, whether or not you will want to tender them based on how they do and things like that. So again, there's no real like protection where if you're on somebody's affiliate list, when it comes to, you know, like you can't go play for a different team, you can't go play for another team within that league. There's no real protection there when it comes to that. But it's usually a tool that's going to lead to something else, or it's going to lead to we've, exhausted, this relationship, meaning we've gotten you out for a few skates, we had you playing a few games, we don't really see you as a tender, you're more of a draft pick for us, and then maybe you start down a path of a different team, and it kind of goes from there. Or it works out really well where they're like, we love you, we want to tender you, or we want to bring you on right now. And then they would have to move their protected list players in order to add you to the roster type of deal. So the affiliate list is, you're not really protected.
Yeah, I'm sure he's talking about either Saskatchewan, the BCHL, or AJHL Alberta, because that league is Calgary. I think it's mostly right in the Alberta area. I know it's a West Coast league, and I know it's mostly built around that area. There's prep schools up in that area. If it's the AJHL, it's a little more formalized than that. I do believe that if you're affiliated with an AJHL team, and I can only speak from the experience, we don't do much affiliation work with junior programs up in that area, but I can tell you from experience of that league, I think you can trust the coaches fairly well. I think that if they're bringing you in, they're trying to get you online because you have options. You have options to go east or west of Alberta. You've got options to go south into the United States. So I do believe that's the case. If you're a quality player and you should be playing in the AJ, and you can play in the AJ, and you do that by what's around you, triangulating the players and coaches around you, you can get a good sense of that. And if you're supposed to be in that league and a team's trying to affiliate you, they're pretty square up there in that league. I've heard very, very, very little bad about affiliations. Now I've had some things over the years, but not much in that area. That's a pretty solid group. So affiliating in general, though, don't read too much into it in the States, because because there's affiliate lists that have to be put together. I remember one of our kids got affiliated when he was 16 or 17. And I can't remember if it was a NAHL team or a USHL team. He got all excited, got a phone call. They put him on the affiliate list and never heard from the team again, just because they filled out their list, put a player on there, and it's their just-in-case players. They never work their way down through the whole list to get them all skating with them or get them all on the ice. So it also depends on how important the affiliate list is to that team. Some teams, it's extremely important. They want to use it. They use it as a tool. Other teams, it's just a backup plan. It's just there to make sure that they've got names if they need them. So,
well, and I think in the USHL too, because they have that phase 1 draft, which is the youngest of kids. I think their affiliate lists for the most part are those kids that are still playing midget that aren't ready yet to make the USHL.
Right.
So again, like we're talking about so many different leagues that the way the affiliate list works in each league is a little bit different. But
for the most part, though, I trust the process. Just keep your eyes open. All right, folks. Have a great night. Thank you so much. Bloomer, I'll see you in a month. I'll see you in December.
This is going to be the greatest communication break we've had. I like it.
I know.
You better come back with at least a tan.
I'm bringing you back some lederhosen, man.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Good night, everybody.
Now listen, I want all of our friends and family to share this on Instagram and TikTok.